Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting podcast. We're going to have a talk about the UFC card coming up on Wednesday. It's the first midweek card we've had for, I think, well over a year. But with the long layoff we've had, etc., I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's not ideal for everyone, especially Europeans, if you have got work the next day. I've been there, I've got to work on no sleep. There's nothing worse than having a midweek card that you lose money on, that you then have to go to work the next day on no sleep. It's the worst feeling in the world. So you've really got to try and make sure you have a winning event. I'd never used to mind so much if I'd come away up a few grand. It's horrible having no sleep, but at least it had been worth it. But I just remember when you had a losing night, it'd be horrible. So guys, just try and be as sharp as you can for Wednesday if you are having to go to work the next day, because there is nothing worse than that feeling. What we're going to do, we're going to quickly recap on how we got on Saturday. And then I'm going to start dropping some betting advice, guys, but in terms of specifics, in terms of looking at things like probability, in terms of looking at what kind of bets you shouldn't be laying, because there's a serious case on Saturday and it needs to be raised, because I know people were betting this line. I've had some emails from people, questions on Twitter, etc., and it's just a big no-no, and I just need to spell it out so people don't make the mistake again. But if we quickly recap from Saturday's card, so UFC 249, first card in, well, UFC card, what was it, the first one in, 2 months practically. So the only pre-bet I had on the card for members was Ngannou versus Rosenstrike under 1.5 rounds. We had 2 units on that at minus 110. We all saw what happened, 20-second knockout. A non-sweat bet. I'm never going to moan about that, so really happy how easy that came in. And we did really well on live bet. We managed to get a couple of units on Vicente Luque at minus 120. I think that was after round 1 we managed to get that. Did turn into a bit of a sweat, to be honest. I did have him 2 rounds up, but I saw a lot of people gave price round 1. I didn't. I haven't rewatched it, but I did have him 2 up, so I still felt I was going to get the decision anyway, but dropped him in the end. He would have won the round even if he didn't get the stoppage. We put half a unit on Michelle Waterson at plus 163. I can't remember when that was. I think it was after round 2. I had it 1 round a piece. I can't remember how the judges had it now. I know one had the Esparza 2 up, one had Waterson 2 up, and I can't remember if the other judge had. I think the other judge might have had it 1-all. I actually managed to get personally plus 275 after round 2 on Bet Online, which I thought was absolutely crazy. Ultimately, we lost the bet, but it was just half a unit because I wasn't confident on the scoring. We managed to get Greg Hardy at underdog odds after round 2, which was nuts. He was 2 rounds up. That was a bizarre line. And we also managed to get Justin Gaethje at just below evens. Can't remember when we bet him. I think it was after round 3. I had him 2-1 up. You could possibly argue he'd won round 2. I saw the judges' scorecards. 2 of the judges gave Ferguson round 2. So he was effectively, 2-1 up across 2 of the judges. But even though normally Ferguson comes on strong, I just see he was struggling with the power. Gaethje wasn't being pushed at a nasty pace because Ferguson just couldn't get in his face like he normally does because he was worried about the power. So I was pretty confident in that, and I don't like betting against Ferg, but I had to do it there because I saw value on that line. So we ended up taking home overall just under 5 units profit. So great restart to the campaign. Hopefully we can continue that this Wednesday. Now, as I've mentioned at the start, I'm going to start dropping in some betting knowledge. I know a lot of guys will be aware of this, but I know for a fact there's a lot that aren't. So I'm going to talk about something today. I've got something in mind for the podcast for Saturday's card. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that podcast. I might even do it tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about probability, and when you're looking at odds, how you look at the probability and what exactly you're looking at when you're looking at odds. And it might seem silly to some people, but I know for a fact there's a lot of people risking money that don't understand how probability works with odds. So we're going to discuss that tomorrow. Today I just want to talk about just a general rule of thumb that you all need to apply moving forward. And that general rule of thumb is betting juiced heavyweights. It's just a no-no, guys. There might be a very, very rare occasion where I feel betting a juiced heavyweight is possibly justified, but I can guarantee you that 9 times out of 10 I'm going to say don't be dumb. The man in question from Saturday was Fabricio Verdum. I have no idea why people were betting Verdum as a minus 300 favourite at heavyweight. Now, regular listeners will know heavyweight is not my favourite division for betting. It's very high variance. I know Fabricio Verdum has a decorated background, but guys, minus 300 heavyweight should ring alarm bells immediately, no matter the circumstances surrounding the fight, the fighter in question, the opponent. Minus 300 heavyweight. Do you really want to risk it? Secondly, Fabricio Verdum was coming back from a 2-year layoff. Thirdly, he is almost 43 years of age. Now, I know at heavyweight you normally can get away with being a bit older, but guys, that's dinosaur age in fighting. 43 and a 2-year layoff. And to add to that, he's coming off a PED suspension. No one in their right mind should have been betting Fabricio Verdum. I don't care whether you're betting him straight. I don't care if you're throwing him in parlays. It's just a no-no. Do not bet juiced heavyweights. I'm going to quickly spell it out for you guys so you can understand why this isn't a profitable bet. Even if he wins, just long term, he's just not going to make money, guys. Now, let's just say he's minus 300, which he was. I think he closed even higher than that. So minus 300. Just say you're betting 3 units to win 1 unit. So if you bet this 3 times in a row, a juiced heavyweight minus 300, bet a total of 9 units. You win 3 times in a row, you'll be 3 units up. 4th time, that bet loses, you're break even. So you would have risked 12 units overall, guys, and you'll be 0 units up. What is the point? Especially in high variance like heavyweight, where you'll be lucky that that comes in 3 times in a row. Let's say it comes in 4 times in a row. So you bet 3 units, so you're risking 12 units overall. Comes in every time, you win 4 units. So you're 4 units up across the 4 bets. Do it a 5th time and you lose. You lose 3 units. You're up 1 unit. So you would have risked 15 units to be up 1 unit. Guys, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the risk. Just don't do it. And if you find yourself in a more of a picky situation, where say you've done it twice in a row and you've won, so you've risked 6 units and you're 2 units up, you lose the 3rd time, you've risked 9 units and you're down 1 unit. But guys, it's just simple maths. It's just not worth adding in a juiced heavyweight. Now, I'm not saying don't ever bet juice. Sometimes I bet juice. Sometimes I'm so confident in a bet I will put big money on it. Like, trying to think of a recent example. Sean O'Malley, I bet, I think I had him at minus 300 or so. I was very confident in the bet. I just thought he should have been a bigger favourite than that. And he went out and he won. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't have lost. He could have lost. It's MMA. There's high variance in all MMA fights. But heavyweight guys, it's even higher. But the point I'm trying to make here is it's not even the fact that... Well, it is the fact that it was a juiced heavyweight. Because you've got to ask yourself serious questions, guys, if you're considering playing a juiced heavyweight. But when you just look at the other factors surrounding it, and it wasn't like this is... You don't need any special kind of knowledge to realise this. 2-year layoff. Coming off a PED suspension, 43 years of age. Guys, these are basics you should be looking at when you're evaluating a bet. Basic principles. I'm going to put something together. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to put some kind of electronic book together for betting guidelines and how I've managed to win the amount of money I've won over the last 5 or 6 years from just applying basic principles, what I look at in tape, etc., etc. But this isn't even delving into tape and getting that technical. This is just basics. And it really annoys me when I see people risking their money on minus 300 heavyweight favourites with a ton of questions surrounding them. It's just a big no-no. There's just no point in risking it, guys. And that is a firm reminder of why you don't bet a juiced heavyweight in that kind of situation. Now, if Fabricio Verdum was either money or a slight favourite, I could understand a bet then. I could understand, you're putting your money on him. I would definitely have advised anyone not to go big. Maybe a unit if you want to bet him. But the amount of question marks surrounding the bet, guys, you just can't risk it. So that is a lesson for everyone. Please take advantage of that lesson that you've learned and apply it. Win or learn. I don't like the term loss. You win or learn. Take this as a learning lesson. Next time you want to bet a juiced heavyweight, ask yourself if there is value there. And then just look at basics, like how old are they? When did they last fight? Are they coming off 5 knockout losses from their last 7 fights? How's their cardio at heavyweight, especially surrounding the current training situation? Guys, just basic questions you need to be asking. So I'm definitely going to put something together at some point. I don't know when, hopefully this year, but there's people out there that are making massive errors betting juiced lines when they shouldn't be. So I'm going to put something together. Guys, if you want to jump on board for the service, so we've got UFC on Wednesday, we've got UFC on Saturday, so we've got 2 more UFCs this week. I know the last UFC was last week, but kind of we've had 3 shows in 7-8 days, or we will have. Pre-bets and live betting service for the year, it's only £195, guys. Last year, members risking £100 per unit won 14,500. Pre-bets are emailed out to everyone as and when I come across a bet I like. Live bet is through a private Discord channel, so you just tune into Discord. During the fights, I freeze the channel so no one can type any messages. I'll put any bets that come up during the fight that I suggest you take, and I'll unfreeze the chat between fights. And there's great camaraderie in the group, guys. We've got over 100 members in the group. We're up to about 110, 120 now. So the service is going really well. Everyone gets on really well in the chat. Got some characters in there. Everyone has a good laugh. So if you want to jump on board, it's £195 for the year. You're going to get, once everything's back up and running, you get roughly 40 UFC shows a year. You get about 20 Bellators. I'm not saying we have bets on all these shows, but giving you an idea of the sample size you have to look at. Boxing, we probably have 30, 40 events. A lot of these have live betting as well. The boxing ones do. We have live betting on all the UK boxing shows. A lot of them in America clash with the UFC, and UFC gets priority. So we don't live bet a lot of the American boxing shows just purely due to schedules clashing. But the UK shows, there's always live betting available, and there's other MMA events as well. Like, I know PFL's been cancelled this year, but we normally have PFL. Normally you're looking at probably around 100 events a year we have to invest our money in and earn a nice return. So there's lots and lots of opportunity, guys, lots of money to be made. All of our bets are tracked. As I say, every video, there's a link to all 3 trackers below this video. If you go to ProMMABetting.com, you can find all the trackers through our website. Everything is transparent. I post my bet slips on Twitter so you can see that I'm betting what I'm tipping to members. I also show stakes and, well, yeah, stakes. I was going to say something else, but that's doesn't make any sense. But no, we show stakes. A lot of tipsters out there that are asking people for money for their service will either not provide a betting slip. If you're using another service, guys, ask to see a bet slip. If they won't provide you with a bet slip, there's something amiss. If they send you a bet slip and they cover up their stake, again, there's something amiss. What are they trying to hide? What, they're asking you for money, but they're only betting $5 a unit or $1 a unit? You need to ask questions, guys. It's fully transparent here. I'm showing you guys the stake because I built this from nothing. I can't remember how long exactly I've been betting for now, but I've only been doing it serious. When I say serious, my bankroll got to $8,000. That was when I started taking it serious, and that was only about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's gone up ridiculous amount since. So you can earn big money here, guys, and I'm trying to show you guys that I've built this from nothing through intelligent investing. Like I say, I don't view this as gambling. I view this as investing. When I'm betting on a fighter, I view it as a stock. You need to treat this as a business, guys, if you want to make money. Like, I had a member on Saturday night. We'd had a really good night, as I just said. We was heading into the main event. I think he'd made some of his own bets as well that had come in, so we'd had a really good night. He's a big bettor, and he said to me, "Oh, Pro, can you give me a bet for Ferguson Gaethje? I want to have some action on it." Prime example of what I'm talking about, guys. If you're thinking you want to put a bet on just for action, don't make the fucking bet. Do not do it. If you want to make money, you've got to take this serious. Stop the action bets. They're absolutely pointless. I'll tell you what happens with action bets, because I've been there. Guys, I've made all these mistakes, even the one I'm talking about with Fabricio Verdum. I've been there, I've done it. I never read any books, I never went on anywhere online. I kind of just learnt from my mistakes, and I'm trying to stop you guys making these same mistakes. And if I hadn't made them mistakes, my bankroll would be way bigger than it is already. Cut out these silly mistakes. Action bets, just don't do them. If you're betting for fun, fair enough. If you're just doing a few quid here and there, but if you're trying to build a new income, an additional income, stop the action bets. Don't do them. So I said to him, don't make a bloody bet. There's no point. Take your money and run. And then what happened during the fight? We got a great live bet opportunity. So instead of making that action bet, just hold off, see if something comes up on live bet where there's value though. Don't just force a bet. No more false bets, people. Don't want to hear any of these silly mistakes, forcing bets. Come on, treat it as a business. Take it serious, guys. It's a great opportunity to make money here, but you've got to treat it as investing. You've got to stop with the false bets. You've got to stop with the action bets. You've got to stop with the silly Deegan bets. If you want to make serious money, you've got to separate your bankroll from your finances. Do not have that money mixed up in your payment for bills. Use your wages to pay your bills. Use this money completely separate. Have it in a separate bank account. That's what I've done many years ago. I completely separated it from my main account. Keep it in a separate bank account. Use the unit sizes. There's so much detail to go in. I'm definitely doing a book, guys, because people need to know the basic fundamentals of just betting in general, but also betting on combat sports in general, because too many people are making too many errors. So there's something going to be coming in the next few months. Watch this space. That's enough of me rambling on there, but I'm passionate about this. This is my main income, and I hate to see people throwing money away on dumb bets where the bookies are luring you in. Time to stop it, guys. Start taking it serious if you want to earn decent money. You can make life-changing money here, or you can at least build some kind of side hustle, an additional income stream. Imagine your money from your wages, money from your wages to pay your bills, and then having a nice additional income stream. You can do what you want with it. I'd recommend that you start looking at investing it into the stock market, index funds, ETFs. Compound interest, guys, one of the most powerful things in the world. Look into it if you don't know what it is. Compound interest will change your life, but you've got to think long term, guys. Much like I talk about my service, if you sign up to my service, I don't want any bitching or moaning because you lose the first event with me. I've never had that, because I drum it into my guys that this is long term. Treat it as a season. Our UFC or MMA seasons are pretty much 12 months. We normally get a little break at Christmas. So you've got to treat it over 12 months, guys. As I've already explained, there's 100 events in a year. Don't come bitching and whining to me because you lose one event. We will win long term, but I can't win every event. I'm not a prophet. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't see into the future. All I can do is apply what I've learned over the last, I don't know how long I've been betting now. Like I said, serious money, taking it serious the last 5 or 6 years, but I've probably been betting for the last 10 years. I really wish I could remember my first bet. The earliest bet I can remember is Vanderlei Silva as an underdog against Kung Lee, but I know that wasn't my first bet. I was betting before that. I just can't remember what it was. But guys, you just got to apply basic fundamentals to whatever you do, and especially to betting. But you can use it as a second income. As I said, use that income to invest. Compound interest, very powerful. Use the money to build it up as a deposit for a buy to let. I don't know, just do something sensible with the money. Don't go and just spunk it on a load of crap. Guys, they want you working until you are an old man or old woman. They want to grind you down. They want you to be relying on that paltry pension. They want you to work your ass off all your life for absolutely no reward at the end of it. Don't let them do it. There's so much opportunity. It's the 21st century. You can build an income online. Never been so easy. Think outside the box, people. Use this time now where you're furloughed. Use this time productively. Build another income. Come on, have some passion. There's a great opportunity out there, guys. Learn, think what you're good at. Just apply it to what you're good at. I can't answer questions as to what can I do, blah blah blah. I can't answer that, guys. I don't know where your strengths are. Apply it to your strengths. Think of what you do for your day job, even if you're struggling. Can you apply that somewhere as some kind of side hustle? You must have some kind of other passion outside of work. Most people, work isn't a bloody passion. You must have something you're passionate about. Think about how you can apply earning income to that. But anyway, I'm going to stop ranting now, guys. But it's just something I'm really passionate about, is making money, investing your money wisely. And I just hate seeing people spunking the gambling winnings or investing winnings. I hate the term gambling on just a load of crap. Guys, be productive with that money. Don't give it back to the books. don't start betting other sports when they reopen. If your strength lies in betting on combat sports, just drop the other sports. Do not bet them. I've been there. That's what I'm saying. I've learned all these mistakes. I used to try and bet on football, or soccer as Americans call it. Guys, you have no edge in that game. It's absolutely crazy. You'll just lose your money. I cut it all out. I just bet what I'm good at. MMA and boxing, that's all I bet on there. And anyone comes to me with another bet, or they've had a tip, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to bet it. Stay away from me. I don't need that negative energy. Keep it away from me. But let's start breaking down the card. I'm going to try and whiz through this card, guys, a bit quicker than the other day, because I've got to do another podcast tomorrow. It's time consuming. I'm a busy man. I've got multiple businesses I'm trying to run, and the UFC is coming at me heavy with these cards. It seems like we're getting a break though on the 30th, which I was a little bit unhappy about at first, but now I'm actually quite glad, because the last 10 days or so has been really hectic. As I said on the last podcast, I've broken down 30 odd fights in the last 10-12 days, so hopefully I'm not missing any information. I'm familiar with most of these fighters, so a refresh always helps me. But yeah, if I'm missing out bits and pieces here and there, forgive me, but it's been really hectic. It does slow down again. We've got the card on the 23rd, I think it is. Then we've got the gap, so we can kind of get back on top of things, unless Dana then decides to start doing more midweek shows, which won't surprise me, because he is trying to play catch up. He still wants to get them 42 shows out for the 750 million from ESPN. So we'll start the card from bottom to top as always, guys. First fight on the card, guys. Late notice fight. This was added. Chase Sherman taking on Isaac Villanueva. Complete honesty, as I always do, I haven't taped it, guys, purely because when the lines first came out, Sherman was the underdog. Now, I was interested in looking at him as the underdog. He's a UFC vet. I know he's not the best, but you know, he's been in there, knows what it's all about, fighting in the UFC, etc. But the line I saw people talking about it that I chat to that liked Sherman. No one was talking about a big bet, but I mean, the line's gone now. By the time I got to looking at it, he was the favourite. I think he was minus 130 by the time I was ready to do the tape on it. He's now minus 155. There's no way I'm betting Chase Sherman as minus 155. I might have a little look just to see if I feel there's any value on Ike, but this is guys, this is another example. I mean, the line's not as bad as Fabricio Verdum. He's not minus 300, but still, betting Chase Sherman as a favourite is a risky proposition. It's heavyweight. The guy's been knocked out a lot. He's been cut by the UFC before. He's only been brought back here so they've got filler for the card. Just tread carefully. As I said, I've not done tape. I saw a lot of people betting him as the underdog. I was willing to look at him as an underdog myself, so that might be a solid bet. Probably is a solid bet. I know Ike's fought at middleweight in the past. As I said though, I think if anything now, you need to be looking at Ike to see if there's any value. So I will have a quick look at Ike, but as it stands, I haven't done that. So I'm not going to make a prediction because I haven't done any tape yet. But I definitely feel that Chase Sherman as a moderate favourite is a kind of a bet that's off the table now. So when I look at tape, it will be more so to see if I think Ike's a play. I mean, if Ike's absolutely terrible, and I think there is value on Sherman, keep an eye on the YouTube page, and I'll put some kind of update on. But I could not in a million years imagine that I'd be betting Chase Sherman as a minus 150 favourite. Fight doesn't go to a decision, minus 300, where I kind of thought it would be. I wonder what the over-under will be at 1.5. That would be interesting. So I'll put an update on the YouTube page if I find anything interesting from that fight, guys. Next fight, guys, featherweight bout. We've got... Oh, is it a featherweight, this one? I didn't even realise that. I know we've got a few fighters that are fighting out of their normal weight class. Like, I think I saw Yadong Song versus Marlon Vera is going to be at featherweight as well. So this is up at 145. We've got Hunter... I know I'm not saying his surname right. I know some people point I'm terrible with name pronunciation. I've said this in the past. I don't know if it is pronounced Azure. I don't think it is, because I remember thinking, oh, I've got that wrong. But yeah, we'll just call him Hunter, so I don't get anyone taking the piss. Hunter taking on Brian Kelleher. I'm looking forward to this fight. I think this is a good fight. Hunter's got a 3-inch reach advantage over Brian, a couple of inches in height. Strikes landed per minute. I mean, it's difficult looking at Hunter's stats because he's only had the one official UFC fight, but he's at 4. Brian's at just under 5. Strikes absorbed. Hunter 1.5. but he fought Brad Katona, who's Mr. Low Volume. Brian Kelleher's up at just under 6. Hunter, from his first fight, averaged 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Brian's 1.5. Both their takedown accuracy is pretty low. Hunter 33%, Brian 29%. Takedown defense for Hunter 75%, Brian 84%. Now the stats are more applicable for Brian because he's had so many UFC fights as opposed to Hunter, who's just had the one. But I know a lot of people that like Hunter here, so I did go into tape thinking, Hunter might be a bet for me here, but I came away and I can't bet him. He's like minus 170, or he was when I was looking at tape. Money's coming in on him. In fact, he's now, he's minus 185 at Bet Online, minus 190 at William Hill. Pinnacle is practically minus 200. I can't personally get behind those lines myself. Now he is a good fighter, Hunter. He's 28 years of age. He fights out of, I think he's with Eddie Char at the Fight Ready gym. I know he was with MMA Lab, but there's been a bit of a split there, so I think he's with Eddie Char. But I don't know how the training situation's been affected. One thing I haven't pointed out yet is from the fights on Saturday, because I talked a lot about this on the last pod, was how much is the training situation going to affect performance, and didn't really see any impact on performances. I'm not ready to say there's not going to be yet. There was only one card. Let's see how the next 2 go. But so far so good, because I'm really hoping that there's minimal impact. Otherwise it will make betting really, really awkward. So I'm hoping that trend's going to continue and we're going to see very little impact on that training situation in the fights. So he's coming off a close win over Brad Katona. It was a really close fight. I remember live betting Hunter in that fight, and I remember thinking I wasn't going to get the decision, but he actually came away with a unanimous decision. He's got quite a long reach, Hunter. Now his striking isn't great, but I'll tell you who he reminds me of in his striking, and you're going to think at first it's a weird comparison, but Olinek, the guy that just beat Verdum, because what Olinek has is, even though his striking isn't great, he's got really long levers, and I think they just catch people by surprise, because he'll throw one of his overhands, but they reach further than what opponents are anticipating, because you've just got this freaky long reach. And Hunter, although his reach isn't, even when you look at it in relative terms, it's still not as long as someone like Olenek's, he still seems to have that awkward kind of overhand punch that people think isn't going to land, but it still lands because of his reach. So, and it's something I think that's very hard to prepare for, because the way the attacks are thrown are generally doesn't throw so many straight punches. They are more overhands, and when you've got that extra extension on that overhand that perhaps you don't see it coming, that's how they land, and Hunter seems to do a good job of landing those shots. So Brian Kelleher needs to be careful of that. He did get held against the fence a lot by Brad Katona. Really got stalled out on the fence. Katona got a few takedowns. Hunter will get back to his feet pretty quickly. He did get taken down in round 3. Had his back taken, but he managed to scramble. I think he bucked him off. I think he had his hooks in, but he bucked him off and got on top with the last 20 seconds left. It was a really close fight. Brian Kelleher applies a lot of pressure. Now, I've seen people saying, maybe it's not the same fighter since the Lineker knockout, which I think there's zero evidence for that, because since the Lineker fight, he's had 2 fights and they've been over in like a minute and a half and just under 3 minutes. I think there's zero evidence to say that he's not going to be pushing forward. Brian will come out. He pushes a high pace. He gets in fighters his face. He's hittable, but as part of his style, he's always shown a good chin. Only Lineker's been able to put him away with strikes. I imagine here he's going to come out. He's going to put Hunter on the back foot, try and get in his face, and make this fight as scrappy as possible. And I see it being a really close fight. I've seen some guys really confident in Hunter, and maybe I'm missing something here, but I just came away, just didn't have a great read, and I went into tape wanting to bet Hunter. But I'm going to pick Brian here. I think the line's getting a little bit crazy. Like I said, he's at Bet Online, he's minus 185 now. Pinnacle is basically minus 200. I don't agree with that at all. I think if you want to bet the fight, I'm not betting on this fight personally, because I just don't feel like I've got a strong enough read to bet on it. But I think there's some value on Brian Kelleher. If you can get like the plus 160 range, he's plus 160 at Bet Online, he's plus 172 at Pinnacle. I think, if I had to bet, I would be looking at those odds personally. I think this fight does go to a decision. Let's just see. Fight goes to a decision. Minus 175 at Dimes. It's minus 200 at Bet Online. No, not Bet Online. At Sports International. So yeah, that's where I lean. If I had to bet on this fight, and the thing is as well, Hunter's got a good wrestling background, but I suspect he'd be wary of going for the takedown on Brian, because Brian does have a really good guillotine. He's a bit like a Pedro Munoz with that guillotine. You go for the takedown, he just jumps on it straight away, and he's really good with it. Even if he doesn't catch it, he can use it to reverse or get back to his feet. So I think Hunter will probably be looking just to keep this fight standing, and I think that's going to be interesting with the pressure that Brian's going to bring. So for me, plus 160, plus 170, I'd take a stab at Brian if you want to bet the fight personally. So I'm going to go with Brian here to win a decision. Next up at lightweight, we've got Gabriel Benítez moving up from featherweight here, taking on Omar Morales. Late notice fight this one, but Omar, he was meant to fight Hernandez at one point. I think there was someone else that fell through, so he's definitely been scheduled to fight for a while. He seems to be training normal at is it Stanford or Sanford? I can't remember what the new name of the Brazilian's gym is, but looking at the Instagram pictures, it seems the last few weeks at least they've been training pretty normal over there. Before that, there was some videos of Morales training in a car park and stuff, so I don't think he's had ideal preparation throughout the whole camp, but at least the last few weeks seems to have gone decent for him. Benítez, not much on his Instagram. It seems like a pretty short notice fight for him, but the big thing for me here, guys, is the size difference. Benítez is not a big featherweight. Morales has fought at welterweight in the past. He's a big guy. The size difference here is going to be huge. Now, the angle, if you're looking to bet Gabriel Benítez, is he's going to stick and move. He's got very good kicks. If you talk to Javier Mendez, aka, he will tell you how good Gabriel Benítez kicks are, and they are. He's a really good kicker. His hands aren't bad either. He actually had Sadiq roughed up a bit in there last fight. I mean, Sadiq's got some, as good as he is, there are some question marks around his chin, but he did have him hurt at one point before he actually got flatlined himself. But I don't understand why he's moving up to lightweight. If you look at Gabriel Benítez's record, he's been really inactive over the last few years. I don't know exactly why that is, and this fight seems to have come out of nowhere. So I am a little bit worried that Gabriel Benítez is taking this fight for a payday, because it just makes no sense to me that he take a fight at lightweight. I'm not aware of him being scheduled to fight either. And to move up when he's, I mean, some guys you understand moving up, but Gabriel Benítez, you look at him, this guy is not a lightweight. Not in a million years. He's going to be giving up some significant size here. He is going to have speed, but the other concern I have with Benítez is I'm really not sold on his chin. Well, he was meant to fight Lerone Murphy, actually, just looking at Tapology in March. So he was getting ready for a fight, but obviously these fights have been cancelled for a while now, so I don't know. Has he been training for the last, how long ago was that fight cancelled then? 6-7 weeks. I wonder what he's been doing since then, because this fight was only announced, I think, about a week or so ago. So it does pose some questions for me. He's coming off that loss to Sadiq where he got flatlined with that counter. Looking at his record, the Bantamweight win, Jason Knight was a decent win, but otherwise he's just been really inactive. I don't know why. He must have had some injury issues. He's basically fought Barzola, he's had 1, 2, 3. He's had 4 fights in the last 3 years basically. And even though he's going to have speed advantage here, I do worry about him at this weight class against Morales, who seems to have some power in his shots, and I'm not sold on Benítez's chin either. I mean, it's no shame he getting knocked out by Sadiq Youssef, but Andrei Philipe knocked him out, and he rocked him as well before he knocked him out. I've just got some concerns about Benítez's chin and durability, and taking on a big lightweight like Morales, who, albeit he can be a bit low volume, he's a counter striker. He's got a good calf kick, but that's not going to be there against a southpaw in Benítez, so that does take away one of his weapons. But I just see him catching, like Sadiq caught Benítez. I just see him catching him with something. I think 15 minutes is a long time for Benítez to avoid getting caught, and I just think he might look good early, but I just think the power and size is just going to catch up with him, and I think Morales is going to put him away. Last 24 hours, money's been coming in on Morales. He's now up at least minus 170 on most books. Some books he's almost minus 190. But Benítez, you can get plus 150 on him, plus 164 at one book, but I just worry about how he's going to look at lightweight against someone so much more powerful than him. I just think he's getting caught at some point. So, fight doesn't go to a decision. Even money, that's interesting actually. That is interesting. It's going to be a stand-up fight. They're going to be trading. I don't think that's a bad line actually. I maybe would flip those lines. I think it's more likely to finish inside the distance personally than go to a decision. So that's an interesting line. Morales KO plus 220 at the moment. Whether that holds or not, it's only at dimes. I think that's interesting. I think if Benítez wins, it'll be a decision. If you like Benítez, I would take the dog money if you like Benítez. I wouldn't try and get fancy and bet the decision line. As I always say, if he ends up knocking out Morales, you're just going to hate yourself. So just take the money line. But Morales bets, I think Morales KO at plus 220, if that holds, is a very good price. And I do like fight doesn't go to a decision, but I don't really see Benítez finishing Morales, so I think you're relying on a Morales finish. So Morales inside the distance, plus 180. In case club and sub want to cover yourself, maybe put half on Morales inside the distance, half on Morales KO. Or if you just want to be safe, or as safe as can be, just take the Morales inside the distance. I think there's some value on inside the distance there, because I do think he's going to catch him. So my pick is Morales there to get the knockout win. Next up, guys, we've got Sijara Eubanks taking on Sarah Moras. I kept this fight a few weeks back when I was originally meant to fight, and I did actually have a personal play. I didn't tip it, but I did take Eubanks. I had about $3,000 on her around minus 280. I've passed this time because by the time the fights got cancelled, she was up at like minus 350. So the books opened her automatically at minus 350, I think, this time. Or if they didn't, she quickly got bet to minus 350. So I'm not risking it at minus 350. I'm slightly worried about her training situation. She was rooming with Claudia Gadelha. So when this whole shutdown first began, she at least had Claudia for training. But it looks, from looking at Claudia's Instagram, that Claudia kind of left and went back to Vegas a good 3 weeks ago now. So I just wonder what she's been doing the last few weeks. And she's had cardio concerns in the past. A lot of it was attributed to the cut, but she did gas in her last fight, which I can't be bothered to check, but I think it was at 135. So yeah, I'm not going to pay the juice on her. Generally anyway, I don't like paying above like minus 280 on a bet anyway, generally speaking. And women's MMA a lot more unpredictable, a lot harder to trust the women fighters, just because their level generally isn't at the men's level yet, because they started a lot later. So it's a pass fight for me, but I still, I'm not seeing great value on Sarah's a submission from bottom or bust for me personally here. I don't see her really having anything. Eubanks is now minus 380. She's been getting bet. People are obviously chucking her in parlays and so forth. Be careful, guys, because you're paying a lot of juice here for women's MMA, but I do expect Eubanks to win here, and I am going to pick her. Prop lines that are out. Is there any value? I don't know. Eubanks decision. It's minus money, so that's a pass. Eubanks TKO plus 485. She's got a nasty head kick. She's got a head kick KO on the Ultimate Fighter. She caught Roxy with a head kick, had her hurt badly. If you bet props, maybe there's some value there. I'm not a prop bettor though, personally, just because I can never get any action down. Even on Bet Online, when they release odds, they limit you on props to like $100 per bet. You can rebet. They readjust the odds and you can rebet, but it's just not my style. I've built my bankroll from betting pretty much money lines. I used to bet a lot of doubles back in the day, but the lines are a lot sharper than they used to be. So I've flicked or switched to pretty much straight bets now, and maybe some inside the distance bets, unders, overs, etc. But generally money lines. But I'm not paying minus 380 on women's MMA, especially in current situation, again for someone that's had gassing issues in the past. But I do expect it to be a class above Moras here, so I'll go with Eubanks, probably by a decision. Next we've got lightweight fight. I'm looking forward to this. We've got Michael Johnson taking on Thiago Moises. Both of these guys are based in Florida. Johnson's at the Sanford or Stanford, whatever it's called now, Black Zillions camp. Moises is an American top team guy, so these guys aren't having to travel far. Full disclosure here, I haven't tipped this to members because I got good odds, or what I feel were good odds. By the time the lines had been adjusted and that, I didn't think there was any value. But I've got a unit on Michael Johnson here at plus 130. Now, Michael Johnson is the kind of guy I don't like betting. I don't trust him. So I said, after that Stevie Ray performance, I said Michael Johnson is on my blacklist now, unless I like him at underdog odds. That's the only way I'd bet him moving forward. I'd never bet him as a favourite again. I bet him against Josh Emmett. Screwed me in the bloody third round. I had a personal play on him against Stevie Ray. Full disclosure, I thought it was a great stylistic fight for him. And he was, the first round was competitive, but he was, he won the second round pretty cleanly, and then the third round he was coasting, and then just ended up on his back, and oh my god. So no, I never tipped him against Stevie Ray. Let me just add, it was a personal play. I wouldn't tip him to members, not as a favourite, but I did think it was a very favourable stylistic fight. But Michael Johnson he's 19 and 15 for a reason. He's a very talented guy, but there's something there that just causes slip-ups. You look at his record, he's got some great wins. He's beaten Tony Ferguson. He's got a loss to Dariush, but he won that fight. Dustin Poirier he put away. He's beaten Edson Barzola. Edson Barzola, getting the two fighters confused there. So he's got some solid wins, but he's always struggled on the grappling front. Never something he's been able to put together. He was coasting against Elkins, gets taken down and insta-subbed. He kind of goes into panic mode when he touches the mat. That's the problem with Michael. You can just see him in his head. I know exactly what's happening in his head. He's having deja vu moments. Fuck, been here before and been fucked up. The Khabib fight probably doesn't help. Absolute beatdown on the floor there. Sub by Elkins. And he's always had a granite chin, but even Josh Emmett put him down, so even there maybe he's got some question marks about his durability. I don't know, but by the time the odds adjusted and whatnot, Michael was down to like plus 110. He's now even edging towards favourite territory, so I couldn't tip him. But plus 130 for a unit, I'm happy risking. I think again it's a possible good stylistic fight. Thiago Moises he's a young guy. He should be improving. I definitely give the edge on the feet to Michael. Thiago's will want to get this fight to the mat. He's got decent takedowns, Thiago. We saw that in the Kurt Holliber fight. Kurt repeatedly managed to get back to his feet. Whether Michael can, I don't know. I just see him going into panic mode. Thiago's got a nice single leg into double leg takedown. That's what he hit against Kurt a lot. Quite explosive. I do wonder though if he's as good hitting that on a southpaw. Michael Johnson is a southpaw. Can he hit that single to double on a southpaw as well as he can an orthodox fighter? Michael's got good reflexes, but he just ends up getting taken down, and he's not bad at stuffing the initial shot, and I can see him stuffing some takedowns, but I also can see him getting taken down at some point, and then it's just can he get back up? At what point in the round does he get taken down? Can he neutralise Moises enough to still win the round from what he done on the feet? If the takedown is maybe past the halfway mark of the round, he's really just got to make sure he doesn't go into panic mode. So it's an interesting fight, this one. The lines now, I've got a bet on Michael Johnson, guys. Okay, I've got plus 130, but looking at the lines now, and remember, this is a betting podcast. I make my predictions based on where I think there is value on the line. I'm just trying to... BFO have completely screwed up the odds because they've got all the fight cards mixed up into one. So Michael now, so at 5 times he's even money. So I wouldn't bet him now. Like I said, I didn't tip it to members once. Even when he was down to plus 110. I think he was even plus 115. I didn't tip it to members. Plus 130, I would have probably tipped it. Anything less, I wouldn't have. So I just caught like the borderline line where I was willing to risk money on Michael. I mean, bet online now is minus 118. Moises is minus 102. So the way the line's trending, it looks like Moises is going to end up being the underdog. So I'll be completely honest, guys. Even though I've bet Michael Johnson here, and I want Michael to win because I've got £1,000 on him at plus 130. I personally wouldn't bet Michael Johnson at these lines now, and I'd recommend everyone not to. I would wait. I mean, it looks like Moises is going to flip to the underdog across all books. If you want to bet Moises and fade Michael Johnson, I'd wait and see if you get that plus money, because I don't think you're going to get big plus money. You might get minus 105, you might get plus 100. Bet online he is minus 102, and I'd probably risk a unit. I think stylistically I can see how Michael can win this fight. It wouldn't surprise me if Moises does end up getting boxed up for 3 rounds. But equally, Moises, decent takedowns. Question mark how they're going to look against a southpaw. But at those odds, I'd probably be prepared to flip. I'm just thinking, actually, if I got plus 100, would I buy out of my bet, guarantee myself £300 if Michael wins and break even if he loses? I don't know. I'm going to think about that one, because I'm breaking it down now, and it really does help me with my own bet sometimes, talking out loud and just having faith in Michael Johnson. It's, it just doesn't. It's not great. It's not great betting Michael Johnson in 2020. But as I said, I would only bet him as an underdog, and I got plus 130, and it was really weird. I capped the fight, and literally the odds came out literally as soon as I'd capped it. So I don't know if that was a sign from the MMA gods, take plus 130 on Michael Johnson, or whether it was the MMA gods tempting me to take Michael Johnson, and then they're going to punish me for my error. So I'm actually going to weigh this one up in my head as to whether I want to buy out, because I can buy out a bet online now, basically even money. I could put £1,000 on Thiago. If Thiago wins, I break even. If Michael wins, I still win £300. I'm going to mull that over in my head, actually, and think about what I want to do. So the pick here, but if you got plus 130, guys, I would have said take Michael Johnson. But based on the current lines, I would wait. And if Thiago drops to even money, I would probably put a unit on Thiago Moises, possibly. Would probably be my tip. But it's a hard fight to call, because I can genuinely see it going either way. It is a 50-50. I might even need plus 110 to say take Thiago, because I do think it's a close fight. But based on where the lines are sitting, and if Thiago closes as an underdog, I'm gonna make my official prediction as Thiago. But I hope I'm wrong, because I've bet Michael, as I've already said. Heavyweight next. My favourite, Andrei Arlovski taking on Philipe Lins. Full disclosure again, guys, I've bet Andrei Arlovski here, but I got plus 175. I've got half a unit on Arlovski, so I got £500 on him. I didn't tip plus 175, because basically as soon as I bet it, I think I got plus 185, then it dropped to plus 180, and then to plus 170. Averaged out that I got plus 175. This was pre-tape as well. Or was it pre-tape? No, it wasn't pre-tape, I don't think. The average day I got plus 175, but by the time I'd put in like 3 or so bets, Bet Online obviously detected that someone liked Arlovski here, and they dropped the line a lot, so I couldn't tip it to members. I think it dropped to about plus 140. I kind of drew the line at, I thought there was some value at plus 175, because it's heavyweight, so it's hard to be confident, and Arlovski obviously has been knocked out a lot. He struggles to win decisions now because of the way he has changed his style to adjust to not being knocked out. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys that are on Lins here and think there's value in the minus 150 territory. I came away with, I understand where they're coming from. I'd done the tape on Lins, but I also came away with question marks regarding Lins. Now, he's got quick hands. He throws on the back foot fairly well, but he's a career light heavyweight. He only moved up to heavyweight for the PFL tournament. Now, perhaps that's a good move for him, because he has got fast hands, and they will stand out more at heavyweight than they did light heavyweight. He got knocked out in his last 2 light heavyweight fights. Some journeyman guy that I don't think I've ever heard of. He's fought in Bellator a few times and knocked him out. And then he got knocked out by Vadim Nemkov. He was a very good fighter. I watched that fight, a one-punch KO. And then after that, he moved up to heavyweight. Now, as good as he looked in PFL, and, well, I say that a little bit loosely, the Alex Nicholson fight was quite back and forth. And Alex Nicholson actually ended up getting knocked out in the second round because he hurt Lins and he got overzealous going for the finish. But he beat Alex Nicholson. He beat Alencar, quick guillotine off of Alencar's shot. He beat Jared Rosholt, who, you know, he's been in the UFC. The guy's just a wrestler. He out-wrestled Lins for the whole of the first round, and then he got caught early in the second round. And then he beat up Josh Copeland for 3 rounds, and the ref gave him a mercy stoppage early round 4. So, yeah, 4 good wins. He won the PFL tourney, but, I mean, Alex Nicholson, Alencar, Rosholt, Copeland, they're not good fighters, guys. This is a big step up against Arlovski's first fight in the UFC as well. It's a plus 175. I had to have a stab at it. I'm not in love with playing heavyweights in general, as you all know. I'm not in love with betting Andrei Arlovski in 2020. And Arlovski, the thing for Arlovski is he relies on his speed, and he's fighting someone here who's got speed. So I fully understand the argument for Lins. Is the speed's going to take away where Arlovski normally kind of excels in these fights, as we saw in like the Sakai fight where I thought Arlovski deserved the decision. It was the speed that gave Sakai problems, and against Lins, you know, a former light heavyweight, possibly got faster hands than Arlovski. It could create problems, but just at plus 175. Lins, big step up in action for him. You know, he's been knocked out a couple of times at light heavyweight, including against a journeyman, and it wasn't that long ago. They both train at American Top Team as well. There are pictures of them together on Instagram. So what you often find as well is when two guys have trained together, it can turn into a bit of a sparring match. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen here, but it's what's happened in the past. So we could end up with a close decision here. Arlovski is coming off that knockout loss. First time he's been knocked out for a long time since he adjusted his style. Got caught with a canter shot, which, to be fair, Lins is going to be throwing them same kind of shots. I think Arlovski got caught behind the ear against Rosenstrike. But, yeah, for me, plus 175, I had to take the value. I'm going to stick with my Arlovski pick here. I don't think there's value now on the current line. Line now is Arlovski's plus 120, plus 125, plus 133. I wouldn't have bet him at those odds, but plus 175 I got an average I was happy with. So I'm going to stick with picking Arlovski here. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm not buying into the Lins hype, but at the same time Arlovski is 40 years of age. Now I know I went on a rant earlier regards to betting old heavyweights, so he's 41 years of age, but the big difference here, guys, is I've bet Arlovski at plus 175. He's not a minus 300 favourite. Okay, it changes things a lot. So, and it's only half a unit as well. So yeah, I've bet Arlovski here, but at the current lines I definitely would have passed. I wouldn't bet Lins at minus 150 personally, even though there's people I respect who have, but I'm going to stick with Arlovski to win a decision here. Right, main card, guys. I use Wikipedia for the schedule of fights, and it's got a 5-fight main card, which I'm not moaning about because it means I can get to bed a little bit earlier. It starts at 2 a.m. the main card in the UK, so we'll probably be done by 4:30, I would have guessed. Just seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's probably 2 fights on Fight Pass. It looks like Sherman and the Hunter Kelleher fight, and then the rest. So it looks like 9 fights for live betting. So we've got Karl Roberson taking on Marvin Vettori next. This is probably the fight. I say that, but these next 3 fights I'm really looking forward to. These are the 3 fights I'm looking forward to the most on this card. So we've got Karl Roberson taking on Marvin Vettori. They've both got same reach. Karl Roberson, if we have a quick look at his record, now both these fighters are southpaw fighters, guys, so this is big thing to point out with this fight. So when I was doing tape, I was looking for fellow southpaw opponents that they fought to see if we could get some kind of idea of how this fight might look. And fortunately, his last fight was against Roman Kopylov, who is a southpaw fighter. So it was just interesting to see how Karl approached it versus orthodox fighters, and against Kopylov he done some real damage with the low kicks. Not the calf kick. He actually stuck with a more tried and tested method of whacking the calf over and over, and it seriously compromised Kopylov eventually. Had real difficulty moving. It was quite a low volume affair. Kopylov really didn't do anything until round 3. He was just eating the kicks. He wasn't coming back with counters. There was just no deterrent there for Roberson at all. He was just hanging back far too long, just letting Roberson get comfortable. Roberson is very one note with his striking. He throws one strike at a time. Normally it's either the low kick or the body kick, depending on whether he's got a southpaw or orthodox opponent, and he's got very fast straight left hand, very accurate with it. Not sure how much power he has. On his MMA record he's only got 2 KO wins, and I watched all of his UFC fights, and as much as he lands that left hand, he didn't hurt anyone. Now, one of his KO wins is the elbows against Ryan Spann on the Contender Series, and he nearly caught Glover with those elbows as well. He had Glover hurt, so you've got to be careful with how you shoot on this guy, because he's very good with them elbows. But in terms of his actual power, in terms of a stand-up fight, I don't think he hits that hard, because for someone that times that left hand as well as he does, and for as much as he lands it, I haven't seen anyone hurt. So I don't think he's the biggest puncher, but he is a very good kickboxer. You can see that. But as I said, kind of one note. And what I'm interested to see in this fight with Vettori is how he will deal with Marvin Vettori's pressure, because technically speaking, Roberson is the better striker, but Marvin Vettori will get in your face and pressure you. Now, he doesn't say stay constant with the pressure for the whole fight, and I don't know whether that's because he hasn't needed to, because you watch the Sanchez fight, round 1 he's all over Sanchez round 1, and then rounds 2 and 3 kind of doesn't apply the same kind of pressure, but he's still outstriking Sanchez even when he's on the back foot. He's countering Sanchez really well. So I don't know whether it's a case of he can't maintain it for 3-4 rounds, because you do see Marvin breathing. He will open his mouth. You will see him sucking in air. But Marvin fights through fatigue very well. You kind of get 2 fighters in terms of, you get a fighter that will gas and end of he's done, or you'll get a fighter that will slow down, but they fight through it really well. And Marvin's one of these guys that can fight through it really well, even though you will start to see him open his mouth and start taking big breaths and stuff, but he fights through it really well. I've noticed a big improvement in Marvin since he's had the layoff. He had the fight with Adesanya, and then he had about 18 months off, or 15 months I think it was actually, and he came back and he's looked really good in the 2 fights since, against Cesar Ferreira and against Andrew Sanchez. And just going back to looking for southpaws, so Vettori fought Cesar Ferreira. Cesar Ferreira is a southpaw, and what I did notice in that fight is Marvin did struggle with some low kicks Mutanti was landing, or Cesar Ferreira, if you don't know him as Mutanti. He was getting the leg kicks off on Vettori in that fight, and Vettori wasn't really having much joy checking them. He was taking them, and a few times he looked a little peeved off that he was getting caught, which suggests to me maybe they were starting to hurt him. So I imagine here, southpaw versus southpaw, Karl Roberson is going to be looking to land that low kick. He would have seen that Cesar was landing it. He's going to look to land that low kick. What Marvin Vettori has to do is not what Kopylov done. Kopylov just didn't come alive until the 3rd round. Let Karl get comfortable, throw the naked low kick. There was nothing coming back. Marvin has to make him pay. If he throws that naked low kick, he needs to get in his face, or he needs to be in his face constantly to stop the kick coming. It's a lot harder to throw low kicks when you're pushed onto the back foot. Marvin can apply that pressure. I know how they train at King's. Marvin will spar heavy. He's got a really good chin. He can take shots. We've seen it. He ran Adesanya close. He gave him a good fight. First round is close. I mean, I do edge it to Izzy, but it was a competitive round. Round 2 Izzy won. Round 3 Vettori started to get his takedowns going. Now this is the other thing as well. I've only spoken about the stand-up so far. Is I think there's quite a big grappling discrepancy here. Marvin Vettori is a very good grappler. He's got decent takedowns. If you go back and watch his fight with Cesar Ferreira, for whatever faults you think he's got as a fighter, he's a big, strong middleweight, this guy. I don't know how he ever got to welterweight. But he got Cesar Ferreira down a couple of times, and Ferreira's a very good grappler. Now, they've both fought Ferreira. We saw Karl Roberson just get taken down and just wrecked on the ground and subbed. Vettori took Ferreira down a couple of times. One of the occasions he took him down, he mounted Ferreira. Now, he didn't keep the mount long. Mount's a difficult position to maintain, especially against someone that's a very good grappler. But just the fact that he took Ferreira down and mounted him shows that he's got a solid top game. And if you go all the way back and watch his fight with Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr., it's the second round, he stuffs a shot from Shoeface, and Vettori ends up on top. And, you know, Shoeface, very, very good grappler, and Vettori pours it on from top position. And I don't know if he would have forced the stoppage, but he was pouring it on Shoeface right until the end of that second round. Real good top control. And he got taken down by Shoeface a few times in that fight, and he scrambled back up to his feet. You go and watch a third round with Omari Akhmedov. He gets on top of Omari. Omari is gassed, but he's putting it on Omari with ground and pound in that third round as well. So Karl Roberson has had a problem with grapplers in the UFC. As I've mentioned, Cesar Ferreira took him down, dominated him on the mat. Glover took him down, subbed him pretty much straight away. And Wellington Turman, he kind of threw that fight away, Wellington. He took Karl down a few times. Twice he took his back, but he lost position and ended up on bottom both times, and it allowed Karl enough top control time to win the round. And third round he got completely out-grappled by Wellington. So for me, this is a competitive fight on the feet. I don't think Vettori's outclassed. Robinson's got the speed, he's got the technique, but as I said, he's one note, one strike at a time. Vettori needs to pressure, he needs to push forward and pressure. But Vettori's definitely got a big advantage on the ground here. Vettori's very physically strong. He needs to be careful with his takedown entries. He needs to avoid them elbows. But Vettori isn't really someone that shoots doubles anyway. He's more of someone that will get the body lock, and that takes away the elbows. So I'd be looking for Vettori to mix in his grappling here and take advantage. I mean, it would be very poor fight IQ from Marvin Vettori if he just happily stands with Karl Roberson. But Vettori's got takedowns. As I said, he took down Ferreira a couple of times. He took down Izzy Adesanya in the third round a couple of times. I've seen him on top against ACJ. I've seen him on top against Omari. I've seen him mount Ferreira. The guy's competent. You watch his UFC debut, hits a lovely submission. He's a very competent grappler. So that is his path here. He's got a pressure on the feet against Karl and make him uncomfortable, not give him space for them leg kicks. We've never seen Karl pressured. Let's see how he likes having that space. You can see he's a nice tidy striker. You give him that kind of fight, you're going to be in trouble. You pressure him, you mix in those takedowns. That's where his weakness is. And the problem with Karl as well is fight IQ. Every fight he goes for takedowns. Now, I've got no issue with him taking down Jack Marshman. He was beating him up on the feet. I mean, he didn't need to do it, but Jack Marshman's just got 0 ground game, so he took him down fair enough. Darren Stewart, that was kind of more a reactive takedown off of Darren trying to hit the clinch, but against Wellington Turman it was just bizarre. He was winning the stand-up, but he was giving the clinch to Wellington Turman because he was diving in going for the body lock takedown. It's like, why was you doing that? Why do it, Karl? You're winning on the feet, you're giving him the clinch, and that's where he ended up having his back taken. And third round he got dominated, but the first 2 rounds he was fortunate. He was able to get out of the position and get on top. So he needs to fight smarter. So I do favour Marvin here. This is an MMA fight, it's not kickboxing, and I think Marvin brings a style that Karl hasn't seen yet. Well, I say he hasn't seen yet. Obviously he's lost to grapplers in Ferreira and Glover, but I think on the feet that Marvin and the grappling threat, I don't think Karl's seen that double combined threat before. So I'm going with Marvin here. I think he's going to win a decision. Neither guy's a finisher, so I do see it going 3 rounds. Fight goes to a decision is now, let's have a look. It's been getting bet up. I saw it, I can't remember what I saw it at, maybe it says minus 165 was its lowest, but it's minus 175 now, so it is starting to get bet. But yeah, that's an interesting one for me. Vettori by decision plus 145 at the moment. I don't like to get too cute. Money is coming in on Vettori as well. He's -1. I mean, Bet Online is -180 now. But I'll go with Vettori here to win a decision. Another really good fight. Bantamweight, Ricky Simon taking on Ray Borg. This is going to be a really good fight, guys. Again, I'll let you into a secret here. Well, it's not a secret. I do have some money on Ricky Simon, only £1,000 because I didn't want to pay more than -150 for him. So I managed to get about £1,000, maybe a bit more. I think I've got 1,200 on him at -150. I didn't want to pay any more than that. By the time I'd put my money down or done the tape, his line had gone up. I just can't tip him to members unless he's -150 or below, and money's been coming in on Simon, which I'm really annoyed about because I do like him here, but I can't add more money. And guys, this goes back to what I spoke about right at the start when I was talking about I'm gonna be dropping some knowledge in terms of betting as we move along. This is another subject that we can talk about. I already said I'm going to talk about probability. So, and this is another one where sometimes you just got to be strict with what price you will pay and what you won't pay. And I said to myself, I'll bet him and tip him at -150 or better, but no more. So he's up at Dimes have got him at -170. Bet Online he's still -163. Bet Online's normally the sharpest book. They're a very sharp book. I've got sharp bettors that tend to use them. Their lines are normally the most accurate, but you know the line is going the wrong way. Unfortunately, by the looks of it, it looks like he's gonna. I thought the money was gonna come back in on Borg, but it just hasn't really happened. So I know people that are wanting to bet Borg at +150 and beyond, and I can't fault them for that. This is going to be a competitive fight. But at the moment I just can't add to my bet with Simon at his current line, and I can't tip it either, which is frustrating, but I have to stick to what I said from the start, and if the price isn't there, the price isn't there. I'm not going to pay it, because this is a close fight. I don't think anyone's running away with this fight, but I do favour Simon purely because of his size. He is the natural bantamweight fighter. He's the bigger guy. Ray Borg belongs at 125. We've seen him at 135. He won a couple of fights in a row. But, well, he actually lost to Kenny. I did score that fight for Ray Borg, but it was a very close fight. But what happened in both those fights at 135 was Ray Borg's relentlessness paid off, because Kenny slowed and so did Silva. Ricky Simon isn't going to slow down. That guy can fight at a crazy pace, because Borg was losing those fights early. He lost the first round to Kenny, and he lost the first 1.5 rounds to Silva, but Silva, just fortunate for him, gassed out. Now we bet Ray Borg against Bontoran. I think we got like near enough even money. I loved him there, and I like betting Ray Borg in certain stylistic fights, because the guy's a gamer. He can go for free. You know what he's going to do. Something else that people need to learn with regards to betting is how you trust in a fighter and trust in what they're going to do. And Ray Borg, in the right stylistic fight, you can trust him, because he's not a great striker. He's never going to be a good striker, but you know he's not going to stand there and trade with you. He's going to look for that takedown. He's going to stick his head in your crotch, and he's going to try and out-grapple you. And if I'm risking money on someone, even if they lose, at least if they fought how I wanted them to fight and how I saw them fight, and it kind of takes the sting away a little bit. If they've just been outclassed, then you know you didn't see it coming, then fair enough. But as long as they fight how you want them to fight, or how they should fight based on their historical tape, then at least you can come away and be like, well, you know, alright, my read obviously wasn't right because I got the bet wrong, but at least he fought how I wanted him to fight. In that sense, you really need to be able to trust fighters. You need them to fight the way that you need them to fight, that you believe they're going to fight. It's when you bet on these guys and they're a grappler and they suddenly think they're a K1 striker, and it's so frustrating as a bettor. So he is someone you can trust. You know what he's going to do. But I just personally think that Simon's just going to be too strong for him. I think he can turn him in the clinch. I think Simon will apply the run a yaya strategy here. I think he'll try and keep the fight striking as much as he can. Simon isn't a great striker. He has got some chin issues, but he's coming off going the distance with Rob Font in. A lot of that fight was standing. He took some strikes off Font, and I'm not worried about his chin against Ray Borg. I think Ray Borg's got one KO loss on his record. If Ray Borg knocks out Ricky Simon, then so be it. I still wouldn't regret the bet. It's one of them things that would probably happen once every 50 fights if they fought 50 times. It's just one of them things that, it's MMA. Fluky stuff does happen from time to time. You can't prevent that. You just need to make sure you feel that you're getting value on the line, and that's why I'm sticking with a -150. But I think that, Borg, he probably will get Simon down at some point, but Simon scrambles up very quickly. Now, what Borg is good at is he is good at taking your back. I don't think he's so great at maintaining back control, though. But Simon does give his back getting up, so there is that path there for Borg. Takedowns, getting the back control and trying to maintain it. It's going to be a scramble heavy fight when Borg's initiating it. I think Simon will try and keep it standing in that strike, and I just think he's going to be too big, too powerful, and just better on the feet. I think that will carry him to the win here, but I do need that -150 for me to tip it and for me to add to my bet. The reason I want the -150, guys, is because what you need to do as a bettor is you need to work out the probability. So that's something I'll talk about on the podcast I do for Saturday's card, because I've spoken enough already about just some basic principles on betting juiced heavyweights. But basically at -150, it's basically implying that Simon's going to win just under 6 times out of 10, which I think is fair. I think if you're paying anything beyond that and you're going past, you're getting towards 7 times out of 10. Like, what is he at the moment at some books? -170. So let's just have a quick look what that works out at. One moment. Just doing the calculation. So -170 is like 6.2 times out of 10 you think he's going to win. So, if I cap a fight and I need, 6 times out of 10, for getting past that, then this when you're losing value, guys. And long term, you might get away with it now. You might go and bet the -170 and Simon wins. But, long term, you have to be wary of betting the correct probability. And what you should always do is think about the probability in your head. If these guys face X amount of times out of 10, how many times do I think the fighter I want to bet wins? If you think they win 8 times out of 10, you go and look at the odds, and the odds are implying that they'll win 7 times out of 10, then, well, you found yourself some value, sir. But if it goes the other way, then there's no value, then you have to query whether you should be betting it. Something I've had to do as a bettor is adjust, because I do bet large stakes. It's very difficult for me to get my money down, my big stakes down, before the lines have settled, because what happens is the lines come out. People, most people are smaller bettors. They bet maybe $50 per unit. A lot of my members are at 100 units, £100 per unit. You don't get many that are above that. So those type of bettors can get in bets on the early lines, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I've had to just adjust my game and accept that, generally speaking, I can't get openers. I've been fortunate with some of these bets that I've put on that I've already discussed, like Michael Johnson and Arlovski, or unfortunate if they both lose. But in the sense that Bet Online have actually started dropping lines first, and they do give you some decent limits on some lines initially as well. They, a lot of books like 5 Dimes, I think, give you like $20 limits initially. So I was just fortunate recently, but I mean, for me to bet openers, it's basically unheard of. So normally I am forced to pay a bit more juice than I perhaps want to, just because otherwise I can't get my stake down. So I've had to adjust my betting style because of that. But for guys with smaller unit sizes, you should be getting your money down when there's value there, when the lines open. And that's why I try and stay ahead of the lines before they drop as much as I can, so that I can say to members that there's value there, even though personally I wouldn't be able to bet it myself at that line and I have to pay a bit more. But I just don't feel... So, for example, Ricky Simon would be a one where normally I would be forced to pay a bit more than I'd want to, but I think because I got that 1200 down at the -150, it's just made me just hold back and say, look, I've got 1200 quid down. I mean, it's 1.2 units for me. Well, it isn't even 1.2 units for me, because I haven't adjusted my bankroll since I got to 100 grand. I don't feel comfortable betting more than £1,000 per unit. If I did actually do it in terms of relative to my bankroll, then I've got probably 0.5 units on Ricky Simmons. So I mean, for me, really, it is a tiny bet, but I do stick to the principle of £1,000 a unit. So I don't know, if I hadn't got the money down, then maybe I would have just used my normal strategy of paying a little bit more than I'd like to, just because I have to get the bet down. But I'm comfortable leaving it at 1200 if I have to. I feel unfortunate for members, because I can't tip it to them. I have to give them value because they're paying me for my service, so I can't, if one of them emails me and says they're a big bettor, they're in the same boat as me, then fair enough, I can give them odds that that I wouldn't tip to others. But when you've got smaller unit sizes, you need to take advantage of the value. So I've spoken about that too much already. I was going to do that on the next one. I'll touch on it again on the next podcast, but you've got to be careful with the value, guys. But I'm going to go with Ricky Simmons to win a decision here, but I just don't think there's any value on the line currently. But I'm not chomping at the bit to bet Borg either, as much as I like Borg and his game, just because I just think Simmons' size is just going to play a difference here, and he doesn't gas. But if Simmons gets bet up to like minus 200, then I'd definitely say Ray Borg is worth a shout. Then it'd be interesting to see where this line finishes. I think it'll finish about where it is now, but I mean, you never know. So I'm going to go with Simmons' decision there. Lightweight fight next. Alex Hernandez taking on Drew Dober. Hard fight to get a proper read on here, because it depends what Alex Hernandez turns up. If it's the guy that comes in with the strategy he used against Mercier, then this is a winnable fight for him, because Drew Dober, I'd definitely give him the edge on the feet. Dober's definitely improved as a fighter. He's definitely coming along. He's got power in his hands. He's a good striker. Throws down. He's got a good chin. I give him the advantage against Hernandez on the feet. But it just depends. I mean, Hernandez, he came off that quick win over Dariush, then he had the good win over Mercier. So against Mercier, you got to see his full game, and he had some good scrambling points in that fight. He looked really good. But against Donald Cerrone, he seemed to come in with a lack of respect for Cerrone. He just thought he could walk through his shots, deliver his own. His takedowns were getting stuffed easy by Cerrone. Cerrone, very underrated wrestler and grappler. Just couldn't get near a takedown on him, couldn't get a sniff. And eventually, the strategy of just trying to punch his way into the clinch like he done against Mercier, he came unstuck. And then against Trinaldo, just very, very tepid performance. I don't know whether it was partly a hangover from the Cerrone knockout loss, whether he felt the strength of Trinaldo, because Trinaldo is a big, strong lightweight, difficult to take down. I'm just not sure. I bet Hernandez against Trinaldo. I had some money on him, and I mean, I don't think it was a robbery. I mean, nothing happened in the fight. It was a bad fight, full stop. But I didn't fancy I was going to get the decision at the end, so he can probably count himself a little bit fortunate. But it's not like it wasn't a robbery or anything. But Drew Dober isn't going to be passive like Trinaldo. He's going to bring it. Drew Dober's takedown defence it has improved, but I mean, it's not ironclad. He can be taken down. We saw Dariush struggled in the first round, but once Dariush switched up his attack and went more to the legs, he got the takedowns, got a couple of takedowns in the second round. But you just haven't really seen his wrestling threatened. I mean, Frank Camacho hit them trip takedowns, but they're very much something Frank Camacho is very good at. Fighters probably don't generally get to defend against too many foot sweep kind of takedowns. So, it's hard to read into Dober's takedowns from them. Dober did work back to his feet quickly. Even against Dariush, he got back to his feet on one occasion. He got taken straight back down, and even the second time, he looked like he was about to escape out the back door, but he just couldn't prise his arm free, and he ended up being forced to tap to the armbar. So he's got some decent scrambling, Dober. But then besides that, you're going back to, you've got to go back to the Scott Holtzman fight to see his wrestling, and Holtzman hit a few takedowns in that fight. But I mean, he generally out-grappled Holtzman in that fight, and Holtzman's, a very strong guy. Mercier fight, there wasn't really any grappling in that. Obviously he got choked, but it was actually, he dropped Mercier, got on top, Mercier sweeped him, got on top and subbed him. So, the last couple of times he's been on the mat with decent grapplers, he has been subbed, but we've definitely seen the guy's power. He had that war with Frank Camacho, he took out a shot Josh Berkman, to be fair, and he's coming off back-to-back knockout wins. I bet him against Hayes. Thought that was a terrible fight for Paulo Hayes, and I actually bet Nasrat against Dober, and Dober just come out and put him away. So this is a real interesting fight. I did put a couple of hundred on Hernandez when the lines first came out. This is before I'd done tape or anything, just because I thought the line was a bit high. I got plus 155 on Hernandez. He's now sitting at plus, well, basically he's near enough even money now, so I can buy out of that bet. I'm probably going to, because I do lean Dober here, I think. But to bet Dober, I would like even money at least, because I don't feel I've got a full read on this fight. I don't know what Hernandez we're going to get, but Dober's got some power in his hands, man. He can crack. So I do lean Dober here, but it's a hard fight to call. But I wouldn't bet him at the current line. I want even money, so it's going to be interesting to see where this line finishes. All the money's been coming in on Hernandez so far, but it's kind of held firm the last couple of days. But we normally see more action the last couple of days of a fight, so it'd be interesting to see. I'll be tempted to look at Dober here if he gets to evens. And I've got a couple of hundred on Hernandez that I can buy out of now if I want to, guarantee myself either break even or profit if Hernandez wins. What does interest me is fight goes to a decision. Minus 135. I don't think Hernandez finishes Dober, and I know Cerrone got the finish, but it was a head kick. Dober is all hands, but he can crack. So that's an interesting one. I've not really looked at the goes to decisions lines yet because BetOnline haven't dropped them, but that's an interesting one for me. Hernandez, Dober goes to a decision, but my pick will be, I'm going to pick Dober, but I'd need even money. I think Dober decision, but I'd need even money, and I do have a couple of hundred on Hernandez, but purely because I thought there was value. I mean, if the lines were still the same and Hernandez was plus 155, I'd pick Hernandez here. But as I always say, this is a podcast based, and I will based on betting value, and I would pick where I feel there's value. And I don't think there's really any value on either guy at the current lines, but just for the sake of picking, I'll pick Dober, and I will be very tempted to put some money on him and buy out of my Hernandez bet if I can get Dober down at even money. But we will see if that happens in the next couple of days. Well, heavyweight, Ben Rothwell taking on Ovince St. Preux. Guys, I've done no tape on this fight. I've got no interest in betting this fight at all, especially when I saw the OSP was up at like minus 175 or something silly at one point. Current line is, money's coming on Ben, so OSP minus 140, Ben plus 120. It's just a past fight for me. It's just one of them fights, guys, that I just look at. I don't even need to do tape. There's no way I'm betting it. OSP's moving up to heavyweight. He's going to have a speed advantage. He might be able to move around Rothwell for 3 rounds and outpoint him. On the flip side, OSP has gassed in the past. He's going to have to move a lot. I mean, Ben is slow, but he's still going to have to move for 3 rounds. Has OSP going to carry the weight at heavyweight? Is his cardio going to be better? He's not cutting weight, so the argument is his cardio could be better. But, you know, I mean, what weight's he going to come in at heavyweight? It'd be interesting to see. Probably 230, I guess. Maybe 240 even. It wouldn't surprise me. Some of the weight these guys cut. Rothwell hasn't looked great since returning. He's slow, man. He's slow and lumbering. I had a little bet on him against Stefan Struve, and I thought that money was gone, but pulled out the win. I think it was the end of the second round. Look, if he catches OSP, then, I mean, it wouldn't have been hit like Rothwell hits, and we have seen OSP, you know, he's been put away a few times. Jimmy Manuwa put him out. Latifi, he guillotined him, but he had him out on his feet with a punch. We saw Dominic Reyes put him away at the end of the 3rd round. You know, these are all one punches I'm talking about as well, so he can be put away. If Ben does catch him fully with a shot, then it could spell trouble for OSP. So I'm going to pick, just based on the line, and I'm not betting it, and I'd advise, unless you feel particularly strongly about it, I'd advise you not to either. But I'm going to pick Rothwell just based on him being the underdog at plus 120. If you said to me I've got to bet someone, I'd bet Ben, but it's a stay away fight, guys. I'm interested to see if we get I'm just looking at the odds. I think, is the over going to be 1.5 or 2.5? If it's 1.5, I'm interested in the over. But looking at fight starts round 2 is -245. So that therefore implies that the over will probably be around, if it was 1.5, it's probably going to be around -200. So I think they're probably going to set it at 2.5, which is a shame. Sometimes you get that with the books. They make an error on the over on a heavyweight fight. They do 1.5 instead of 2.5. You get it now and again. I think this one they're going to do 2.5 though. Again, I'm not a prop bettor, guys, but just looking at it, Rothwell KO plus 240. Not bad if you like betting your props. What's OSP decision? OSP decision. Whoa, plus 300. Whoa. I think that's how he wins the fight. To be honest, I think I've not done tape like I said, and someone I chat to was saying that they think OSP could use their wrestling here. I see it as a stand-up fight. So OSP decision plus 300. If you can stick a move for free, you like OSP. I don't think that's a bad line at all. But yeah, it's just not the kind of fight I want to bet unless the over at 1.5 would be interesting. Main event, we've got Glover Teixeira taking on Anthony Smith. Interesting fight here. I know a lot of people seem confident in Smith. The betting line indicates people are confident in Smith, but I think betting that Smith at -175 is not a good bet at all. I'm not as high on Anthony Smith. I think people are seeing the quick wins at light heavyweight over shot to pieces Shogun and Rashad Evans, and then they're seeing the win against Vulcan and Gustafsson. But I mean, Gus was kind of winning that fight until he went for a trip off of I think Smith clinched him. He went for a trip and he just ended up on the bottom and gets his back taken and got choked out. It was all a bit bizarre, to be honest. Vulcan, he was 2 rounds down to, and he managed to get Vulcan down and sub him. I mean, what you do need to be conscious of with Smith, because I don't want to just dismiss him. I mean, you look at his record. His record's not great, but a lot of them losses are earlier in his career. A lot of them stoppage. He's got a lot of KO losses, but he's not been KO'd for a long time outside of the Thiago Santos fight. It's a long time since he was last KO'd. You've got to go all the way back to 2011 when Adlan Amagov, that guy was a beast. I can't remember what happened to him. Was it religion based? Why he stopped fighting? I've seen that fight as well. I'm sure it's a brutal knockout. But yeah, you're going back a long time. I don't know what he's changed in his game, because I haven't seen these fights where he was getting stopped. I don't know. Maybe they were ground and pound kind of stoppages as opposed to getting put out on his feet. I don't know, but he's definitely changed something in his game to shore up his durability as Smith. But yeah, he's not a good round winner. He's a terrible round winner, in fact. You go back and look at his record. I didn't re-watch the fight with Elvis, but I'm sure he lost round 1 to Elvis. But the Andrew Sanchez fight, he was 2 rounds in the hole, pulled out the win in the 3rd round. Hector Lombard, he was 2 rounds down, pulled out the win in the 3rd round. Volkan Oezdemir, he was 2 rounds down, pulled out the win in the 3rd round. The guy he's not a good round winner. He was losing to Gustafsson. But the double-edged sword to that is against someone like Glover. Glover is 40 years of age now. He's getting up there in age. I don't like betting on old men, but Glover isn't shot. He's not a Shogun. He's not a Rashad Evans. Look at him. He's coming off a win over Nikita Krylov. He's coming off a win before that against Kutalaba, a win before that against Roberson. He had the fight with Corey Anderson, but tough stylistic fight, Corey, because of the wrestling that Corey's got. Before that, he beat Misha Serkinov. Before that, he looked, he's been made to look bad in a couple of fights. Gustafsson and Corey Anderson fights, you went and watched them, you'd think, oh, it looks like he's shot. But then the guy bounces back, got a win over Jared Cannonier. I know a couple of these guys are now down at middleweight, but still, when you look at his record, he's only ever lost, besides a couple of early losses, he's only lost to John Jones. So John Jones, regarded as the GOAT by many, and a decision as well. Phil Davis and Corey Anderson, who both just gave him problems with their wrestling. And outside of them, Rumble, who is one of the biggest punchers we've seen in MMA, and Gustafsson, who, possibly probably the third best light heavyweight you've ever seen in the UFC. But otherwise, he's won all his fights. The guy's still tough. He does get rocked a bit now, but he's not chinny. I mean, he got dropped by a spinning back fist from Kutalaba. It's a low percentage move, but when something like that lands with a lot of power. He got hurt from Roberson's elbows, but they're elbows. They land flush like they did. They hurt anyone. So I'm not saying he's got an iron cast chin, but it's definitely not as bad as a lot of people seem to make out. He's only been put away by Gustafsson and Rumble in recent times. And as you go, I think he got KO'd like his second pro fight or something. Let's have a look. His debut, it was punches and elbows, so it was probably a ground and pound type stoppage. But he's still winning fights, against young guys. Kutalaba, Krylov, Roberson, Serkinov. Not as young as the aforementioned, but he's still a young guy early in his career. The guy can still win fights, and he's going to come out here against Anthony Smith. He's going to bring the pressure. Anthony Smith, it's already discussed. He's not a round winner. The guy will lose rounds. Doesn't throw out a lot of volume. He's fighting spurts. He's dangerous when he lets his combination goes. He's a good striker, Anthony Smith, and he's got power. So he could put Glover away. But he can be taken down, Smith, and he's got a horrible habit of he turtles up on the ground. Done it a lot against John Jones, and he was also doing it. I think he done it against Vulcan for, I think it was round 2. He done it for pretty much the whole of the round. Glover's a very good grappler, good submissions. So I'm not sharing the Smith love here. I mean, I really think this should be a more closely lined fight. Smith is the younger guy. Like I said, Glover's old. I don't like betting old men. He's looking a bit rockier on the feet. Smith has power, but I don't agree with the line at all, guys. I've got to admit, and the line's gone back up to plus 155. So I've got to pick Glover here as a significant underdog. Could he lose? Yep. Could he get knocked out early? Yeah, it might look silly, but guys, this is a long-term game. It's like I tell everyone that joins me, you've got to think long-term. We can't win every bet. I'm not going to win every bet. Can't do it. Especially when we're betting based on value, I mean, I'm not someone that goes and bets someone as an underdog if I don't think they can win the fight, even if, they're plus 300. I just don't bet it. It's not my style. Some people will, whatever works for you works for you. It's not my style. I will make adjustments to my style and evolve. You have to, like anything in life, like any job. But what I've done has made me a lot of money so far, so I'm not into making drastic changes. I'm not going to start betting on people I don't think can win. But I definitely think Glover can win this fight, and he's plus 155. But it's not a lock. Smith could lose. How would I cap it? I'd probably cap it closer to an even money fight. So again, I'm saying it's a 50-50 fight, but we've got Glover. If we look at probability again, guys, let's do that. Odds are saying that Smith is going to win this fight like 63% of the time. And I've just said I think it's a 50-50 fight. I see value in that line, guys. I'm talking 50%. The books are saying 63%. So I think there's 13% gap there. But, it is Glover. He is an old man. I don't love betting old men. I certainly wouldn't bet big. But he looked alright against Krylov on the feet even. The pressure gave Krylov problems. Smith, he's not a round winner. I don't see it. I don't see the love for Smith. I think people are seeing the win over Gustafsson and thinking this is going to be a walk in the park for Smith. But I don't agree at all. So I'm going to pick Glover here. I think the value's on Glover. As I said, I'm not confident, so don't go away, guys, and start betting stupid money. Keep it small. I'm considering maybe half a unit. I'm not prepared to do any more than that. I haven't bet it yet. I've been mulling it over in my head. Don't like betting dinosaurs, but if there's value, there's value. So that wraps up the card, guys. I'm going to be back. I'll probably do the card for Saturday tomorrow. So I'll talk a bit more about probability tomorrow and how you need to be conscious of it as a bettor. But I would urge you all to listen to the first 20 minutes of this show, even though I'm not talking about the bets. But if you are serious about betting, just some general knowledge in there that you need to apply, guys, and use it moving forward if you want to make money. If you're just betting for a bit of fun, then fair enough. you don't have to listen to it. But if you're trying to build a solid bankroll here and make some good money from this, which you can, even if it's just 5, 10, 15 grand a year, it's a lot of money for some people. You can use that money. It can change your life, even if you just put something like 20 grand a year into a index fund or ETF, just based on what the average return from the stock market has given over the last 100 years. You're looking at an insane return on your money with the compounded interest in 20 years' time. Go and look at the calculators online. They'll tell you what your money will be worth just based on, even if you go under the average return on the stock market for the last 100 years, put in like 7% even. Still crazy return on your money. Obviously it's not guaranteed, but 100 years of data tells you it is. What's safer than that? There's nothing. Nothing has that kind of historical data on it in terms of return on investment on your money. So just use the money you win wisely, guys. Don't go and spunk it on crap. Don't be a victim to commercialization. Don't go out and spunk your money on all this crap they want you to spend your money on. Be smart with your money. Don't be a victim. Don't be someone that has to wait to retire until you're 75 and rely on a paltry pension that you can't even enjoy your retirement because you have to choose between heating your home or eating food. Think outside the box. Be smart, guys. But I'll stop going on now. I'll be back tomorrow anyway to talk about the next card. Good luck with your bets. If anyone wants to join up, remember we've got live betting Wednesday and Saturday. We've got pre-bets out to members for both cards already. Long-term vision though, guys. Don't be signing up with me for results over a couple of shows. It might not happen. We might lose the next 2 shows. Do I care? No, because I know I'll win long-term. There's variance in this sport. I will lose a couple of shows in a row. I might lose 3 or 4 shows in a row. I hope not, but it's going to happen. In the long term, it's going to happen. Do this for 10 years, you're going to have some rough spells, but no, ultimately that will come out on top. So I always compare it to the stock market. The stock market has peaks and troughs, but ultimately throughout history you've always had a great return on your money long term. But you've got to change your philosophy, guys. You've got to think long term. You've got to think ahead of the game. You can't be thinking short term anymore. Change that mindset. Honestly, so much information available on the internet you can read about, but I'm definitely going to be putting something together to try and help people, not just on the betting side, but just in terms of being smarter with your money. Just stop being a victim. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. No one gives a fuck, guys, except for you. It's just in your head because you've been sold it over and over every day on the bloody TV, on the radio, on the internet. Just drilling it into your head. Just separate yourself. Don't be a sheep. But over and out, guys. Good luck with your bets. Any questions, drop me Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. My DMs are open. Drop me any comments on here. Happy to answer them. Good luck. Let's make some money.